The Mount Desert Island Historical Society worked with Miss Ruth Poland's environmental science students to look at the effects climate change will have on Mount Desert Island. The project began with assisting students in using the archival collection to gather baseline data to help document sea level rise. Some of the documents students used included newspapers, archival photographs such as those taken during Hurricane Edna back in 1954, and tidal benchmark reports from the United States Coast Guard. Students also explored exhibits at the College of the Atlantic to get a better understanding of the habitat requirements for a variety of coastal animals.
I didn't even see it at first, but I went in when we were walking back, and all of a sudden I see this little window down below that had this little egg in it, and I forget which one it was.
The puffins.
Puffins.
Yeah. What did you like about that?
It was just sneaky, you know. It's little details. It's the little things. Yeah. And then on the other side, there was another one with a hatched egg and another little baby puffin.
So it sent you on like a little...
On October 27, 2022, we ventured with students to areas they identified as prone to flooding to take measurements and photographs to see how a king tide affects coastal areas now and how those areas will be further impacted by sea level rise.
So, Jacob, you've been to Seawall before. What do you think of it with the king tide?
I mean, it's pretty crazy seeing all the rocks like under the water, because I've been out here many times, and like I get like a beach chair, sit down there, and just have those spots completely submerged. It's pretty wild.
What do you think it would look like in a storm?
Oh, I bet it'd be like fully like that'd be insane.
So we've seen some of the evidence of high seas in the historic records, and then you got to see a king tide now. What kinds of things does seeing it in real life make you worry about or think about?
I think it's just like with the level rising, it's so close to like all our infrastructure, like the roads and all the houses and everything. And then also like when we saw like little animals like running on the tides, that makes me think about like their homes are there, you know, so those are going to be destroyed. So not only will our homes be destroyed, but the animals will too. And so that's like kind of our fault. So it makes me feel bad, like not only do we do this to ourselves, but we did to animals too. So yeah.
Like what erosion does to ecosystems and infrastructure, and how are we supposed to stop it, slow it down, and rebuild it?
How do we rebuild? Yeah.
The information students collected during the historical records research and field observations were compiled into a visual map of Mount Desert Island. During the Christmas break, students were able to see the effects of storm surge coupled with another king tide on their local communities.
I'd say overall, one of the most interesting things that came out of this was I'd always thought about sea level rise as being like, oh, it's just like just take a couple of feet off the shore and then that's where it ends. But now it's like I didn't think about how much is of the height differences between all these things. It always seems like we're walking along flat ground, and apparently this thing's way down here. It's going to be underwater. This thing's going to be way up here. And even seeing like some of the predictions with like the island maybe even being like having like a quarter cut off of it and being its own island. It's like just drastically changing the landscape like that in a way that I hadn't thought about before.
How does it feel to know that?
Well, I imagine it would feel a little bit worse if I lived here, but not good.
For the project, I was a little nervous about what we were going to do to help our island adapt, and now I feel more hopeful about changing infrastructure and roads and everything that we're going to do to protect our businesses and homes and stuff like that.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. A hopeful message is nice. Yeah. And were you surprised by anything that you saw from the historic records or from when we were in the spaces during the king tide?
When we were in the spaces, obviously like having roads covered in water, and also then like photos from the storm, like seeing piers I walk on just like flooded when they feel like they're really high up and out of the way, but they're not.
Yeah.
Like looking at the photos of everything and the tide rising really made me realize how fast it actually is and how much it is affecting our lives currently, because I think that for a lot of people they think in the future, and it's actually happening now. So I think that was really impactful for me to see how I live right on the coast, and how actually really soon my house could be, you know, somewhat underwater or like around my lawn maybe. So I think that it just made me realize how fast everything is happening, and I think that's an important message that we should help to spread.
And what gives you hope for the future?
I think that we've definitely looked at how, although it is rising fast, there are some ways that we can try to slow it, or at least, and then in buildings we already saw that there are technologies to help with that, and so I think that this is an issue that's being talked about more as well, so hopefully new solutions do come up. So I feel hopeful that it's something that we're working on and looking at.
Perfect.
Our collaboration with these students sparked ideas for future projects.